In today's video, I am going to give you some strategies that will help you beat a 1-3-1 zone if you're coaching youth players. For example, the U12 team, which is 11-year-olds that are currently playing behind me. Now, in some parts of this video, it may be considered a rant. However, I hope that these strategies do help you win more games. Really quickly, if you want to have my Unbeatable Basketball Zone Defense book, make sure to go check out that link that is down in the description below because it's going to double the low post and trap the corners. Now let's get down and let's check out how you can beat a 1-3-1 and some of the things I would love to rant about. Okay, so one of the easiest strategies that you can actually use is to get the ball into the low corner and then attack right away. Now you may be saying, well, that corner is supposed to be trapped if the other team is running a 1-3-1 zone. And as we can see here, we get the ball to Jason. Jason attacks, and there's no trap. You've got a player who was supposed to be playing the point who is moving down towards that post. You've got this guy, and this guy standing here where it should be if they were going to trap this guy and this guy trapping that corner. It didn't happen. They didn't move fast enough. And because of that, we were able to get this and won. So how you're supposed to be generally setting up the 1-3-1 as a defensive team is, of course, you're going to have long-armed players on the sides. You're going to generally have a big guy usually in the middle. You're going to have a fast guy up top and a fast guy in the bottom. Now, the fast guy in the bottom preferably should also be somewhat tall because he's going to be the one who's the last line of defense if they were to drive and there was no trap in that corner. And in theory, if you can have long arms here, long arms on the far side, and long arms here, and then a big guy in the middle, you're going to have a lot of easy traps in the corners because, of course, with long arms, it's very hard to pass around them. However, this team isn't necessarily set up, in my opinion, to be able to run the 1-3-1 successfully. They're not having long-armed players on the sides or at the bottom, so this zone shouldn't be played with this team, in my opinion. Everyone's opinion may be different. However, another way that you can beat it, especially against a team that not necessarily is going to be running much on defense, is going to be just bringing the ball up the sideline and passing it to the middle man. As we can see here, once that ball gets to that middle man, Keneal, who's a really good shooter, the defense doesn't go to close out. The only man really closing out was the big guy, and he was not in position to be able to close out. Which now goes into my rant. This is a team that, in my opinion, probably never learned how to play man-to-man. You have to teach man-to-man defense before you teach zone. Because in a zone, if you teach that first, what's going to happen is the players are going to stand there because this is my zone, I'm not going to leave my zone, and I don't need to do much because if the ball isn't in my zone, I don't need to move. And that is the mindset of a lot of young players before they learn man. As soon as they learn man, they understand the zone concept because there's zone in man. For example, if a player drives and a man helps out, now there is one man who needs to drop down and guards two guys instead of just guarding one. And as soon as they understand the man-to-man concept, they're able to use that concept in zone. And if you don't teach man-to-man first, you're going to have a lot of teams that just sit stagnated in a zone. And simple passing will really beat that zone quite easily. Another strategy that you can run is what we do right here, and that is a quick screen up top. And again, the whole theme of if this defense isn't moving, you can get a lot of shots up. And that's exactly what we have right here. Keneal comes off that screen probably quicker than he needs to. He slides quite a bit. We can see that if we go back just a bit. We can see that he slides a little too fast. He noticed right at the last second, see him slide there? Last second that, hey, there's nobody covering coming off this screen. I don't need to go very fast. I can pull for this shot. And that's exactly what he does, and he did make it right there. Now you're going to see the actual next option to this because now we have a guy here. We have our screener here. We've got our shooter here who's dribbling up this way. And then we've got another player out on this wing, and we've got another player who is sitting in this corner off camera. As we can see, this man isn't looking to cover the corners. This man is covering the middle. Right here is covering a Desiree, and then there's a man on the far side who's covering the far side man. There's nobody covering the guy off camera. So what we have is a wide open shot here. And in this shot we made it, but the next shot, here we have again Jason setting that screen, Keneal coming off the screen, Sebastian's out of position, so he's going over towards the other side to spread the floor out. We have a Desiree right here, and then off camera we have our best, or one of our two top shooters, and that is Ethan. As we can see, the defense is all on this side of the court. There's nobody within about probably 20 feet of Ethan. Keneal is able to get that pass over to Ethan because this man is covering Keneal. If we rewind just a bit, this man does his job. He goes and covers that drive. Keneal could have taken that shot. Keneal's got a really good shot, and this guy needs to step out a bit more to cover Keneal, or at least to cover this, a Desiree, something. Desiree's not necessarily a three-point shooter. He will be in the future, however. But we have nobody near Ethan, and because there's three guys along the free throw, there's one guy in the low post, and then we have one guy at the top. On defense, the corners are wide open, which means that when we go and try to attack this zone, we generally want to try and pass out to the corners, especially if the zone is not moving that fast, and we can get some open threes. Now, we're not going to get a rebound most likely over somebody who's 6 feet tall when they're only in grade 6. If we are 50% three-point shooters like Keneal and Ethan, we're going to be able to really open up this scoring quite quickly. So, what are some points that we can learn from this video? Well, number one is when we are teaching a defense to a team, we should always start with man-to-man, because as soon as you teach man-to-man, they learn zone principles. And then you move over to a zone to teach them, and that way you can give a team different looks. You can say, okay, guys, they're beating our zone right now, let's go to man. Hey, they're beating our man right now, let's go to zone. Now you can give a team different looks. It's not like we're saying go from a 1-3-1 to a 2-3 zone. You're just basically going to a different zone, and if you're stagnated in that zone, it's going to be extremely easy to score. We played against a team last year who ran a 2-1-2, and the kids literally just sat there in their zone, and when their coach was yelling at them, they said, "This is my zone." So why don't we teach man-to-man first to kids and then teach zone? But when we see these opportunities to be able to score massively, we won this game by 43 points. If we can look at these opportunities when other teams are running zones, and we can really attack a zone like a 1-3-1 really easily like we did right here, then we need to take that advantage. Anyways, I hope that you have enjoyed. Make sure to go check out my unbeatable zone defense down in the description below, but definitely teach your guys man-to-man first. Anyways, I'll see you guys again in my next video.